guess we could do an open discussion and talk about, we never got into the colors, huh, of the aura? We didn't get into that?
Not in detail.
Oh, can we? I love colors.
You bring mine?
Hmm?
Not karma, the aura things for my friend?
I don't know.
Because if he doesn't, yeah, yeah, no, it's not this one, because I have stuff for creation, I don't know. I think it's, dark, but it's this one. Yeah, makes sense.
Let me see how it looks.
These ones,
Oh, that one? Okay.
and then this one, and that one.
I don't see it.
Well, if not, I can send it to her by email, because you had sent it to me by email.
Yeah, I did. I think I did. Okay.
Thank you.
Okay, then let's go ahead and look into this. I didn't bother to prepare today, so excuse me. So let's go ahead. I'm going to look at two different sources that talking about the colors of the aura. And those two different sources is the Astral Body and Other Astral Phenomena by Arthur A. Powell, and Yogi Ramacharaka, The 14 Lessons. Both of these was written in the early 1900s. That's in the Western world. That's when the aura really became noticeable. I mean, well, it became a topic among Western people. It was a topic for thousands of years in the Eastern worlds. But with the coming in the late 1800s of the Theosophical Society, which was a mixture of all different type of metaphysical teachings, the Eastern Buddhist, Hindu, the Jewish Kabbalah, the Egyptian, and the mystic Christianity was all rolled up into the Theosophical Society. And when Madame Blavatsky, Annie Besant, which is some of the top teachers, and Leadbeater, when all of them came over to Europe, when they came over to Europe and then over to United States, they introduced this type of metaphysical science. And then later on in the early 1930s, well, really in the early 1900s, several different scientists actually began to put different equipment together in order to actually photograph the aura. I know there was a lady that actually brought about devised a camera to do it. I think that was in either mid or late 30s, and now they call it the Curlian photography. In fact, you can Google it right now, and they'll give you the type of equipment, the type of whatever you need in order to film the aura around the body or anything. But there was actually scientists at the turn of the century, in the late 1800s and then the turn of the early 1900s, that actually photographed the aura in a different way than what she did. So it was at least before she perfected whatever she was doing, there was at least 30, 40 years of people using different techniques in order to see the aura. That's something that the Western world do. The Eastern world, they accept it. They go about it by developing their sensory perception. The Western world, we tend to try to do it outside of us by devices or whatever. So, well, a lot of the studies uncovered these things to be true. There was one, I'm trying to remember the guy's name, I can't remember his name. But what he did, he used a number of chemical screens. He would place a person or a thing behind the chemical screens. He would put layers and like glass screens that he slide the chemicals in. Then he would push the light through, and when you push the person on the other side or the thing, you can see the aura around them. And they documented the colors and found out that the ancient people were right. And these are some of the colors. Black, a thick, cloudy, which they represented as hatred and malice. Red, a deep red flash, usually on a black background, anger. And Scarlet, can someone read this because my throat is messed up? Huh? Oh, you don't have this? I thought you had this. Let me email this to you. Give me a minute. First of all, I got to remember where I put it.
Yeah, I'm gonna pull it up on the screen.
Okay.
Where is it at? You had the 14 lessons, right?
The book?
Yeah,
Yes.
in your computer?
Somewhere.
So, go ahead. Okay.
Maya,
Yeah.
why does the aura have colors?
Why? Um, it's really simple. It's like because of the electronic magnetic spectrum.
Okay.
You know, you have electronic magnetic spectrum that's developed it's there because of the sun, right? You remember chemistry? They taught us in chemistry about the electronic magnetic spectrum and the electronic configurations. You know, remember that? Well, it's like the sun releases this light to the solar system. The light is full of all different type of substance, plasma, right? It's like solar plasma. But within the solar plasma, you have different degrees of radiation. Well, all of that, it appears to be white light, but when it's a combination of many lights compressed to make the bright light color, right, or yellow color. So, and the prism effect tells us that when we place a prism before a beam of light, it breaks up and you see all the different colors from one end of the spectrum to the other end. Well, like scientists tell us, scientists say, well, all the atoms are what? It's just an atom. It's a nucleus, proton. I mean, it's a nucleus, and within that is within the nucleus you have the nucleus, the proton, and an electron. The electron spins around it, right? Or the neutron. I mean, the neutron, proton, which makes up the nucleus, and then you have the electrons spinning around it. The thing that makes everything look different is how that electron breaks into the magnetic.
Call from MCO Man A. Jared.
How it breaks into the electronic magnetic spectrum. In other words, the light comes, and then the electron breaks into that spectrum, and then it breaks into it at blue, at red, at whatever, and that's what produced the color. And that's what produced the character of that particular thing too. Scientists realized that in I think the late 1800s, early 1900s, in looking at the whole periodical chart and how this gaseous sun pushed this light into all the different planets and the atmosphere and how everything breaks up. So the electronic magnetic spectrum, the layman term for that, is the rainbow. That's all it is just a rainbow. So it's the same thing with us. We have our nucleus, right? Which could be our spirit and soul, right? And then we have the auric substance or the auric body, which is a series of magnetic energy, swirling around that. And that's like really the auric body is the body of the soul. And this is a combination of energy that moves around on many, many layers, and it creates this magnetic pull on the cosmic energies of the sun, the moon, the earth, and all the planets, right? And that's why, that's one of the reasons why astrology is so real, and numerology is so real, because the numerology is based on astrology, because we pull the energies from the sun, the moon, the earth, and all the other planets, all right? And that creates a matrix of the cycles in which we would live from life to life to life to life, depending on how we were introduced into the world, into that electronic magnetic spectrum of this earth, of this physical realm, will determine the life cycle we have for this life. In other words, you come on the Mars and all the other stuff. That's what they mean by that. That's actually what they mean, because we're being affected by the auric imitation radiations of either Venus, Mars, or whatever your zodiac sign is, and with a combination of the TAVIC rays of the sun, the moon, and the earth. Okay? Did I help? Did I answer your question? Okay. Somebody want to read this for me? If you all want to see the details of this? We stopped on 3.
A scarlet cloud, irritability. Number 4, brilliant scarlet. On the ordinary background of the aura, noble indignation. Lurid and sanguinary red, unmistakable, though not easy to describe, sensuality. Brown gray, dull, hard, brown gray, selfishness, one of the commonest colors in the astral body.
Yeah, and it's one of the common colors around everything, it seems, for some reason. Is number 6 and number 9 you see almost everywhere.
Number 7, the brown red, dull, almost rust color, avarice, usually arranged in parallel bars across the astral body. Greenish brown, lit up by deep red or scarlet flashes, jealousy. In the case of an ordinary man, there is usually much of this color present when he is in love. Gray, heavy laden, depression, like the brown red of avarice, arranged in parallel lines, conveying the impression of a cage. Gray, livid, a hideous, frightful hue, fear. Crimson, dull and heavy, selfish love. Rose color, unselfish love, when exceptionally brilliant, tinged with lilac. Spiritual love or harmony, humanity. Orange, pride or ambition, often found with irritability. Yellow, intellect varies from a deep and dull tint through brilliant gold to clear and luminous lemon or primrose yellow. 15, dull yellow, ochre? Implies the direction of faculty to selfish purposes. Number 16, clear gamboge yellow, indicates a distinctly higher type. Primrose yellow denotes intellect devoted to spiritual ends. Gold yellow indicates pure intellect applied to philosophy or mathematics. Green, in general, varies greatly in its significance and needs study to be interpreted correctly. Mostly indicates adaptability. Gray-green, slimy in appearance, deceit and cunning. Emerald green, versatility, ingenuity and resourcefulness applied unselfishly. Pale, luminous blue-green, deep sympathy and compassion with the power of perfect adaptability which only they can give. Bright apple green seems always to accompany strong vitality. Blue, dark and clear, religious feeling. It is liable to be tinted by many other qualities, thus becoming any shade from indigo or rich deep violet to muddy gray blue. Light blue, such as ultramarine or cobalt, devotion to a noble spiritual ideal. A tint of violet blue indicates a mixture of affection and devotion. Luminous lilac blue, usually accompanied by sparkling golden stars, the higher spirituality with lofty spiritual aspirations. Ultraviolet, higher and pure developments of psychic faculties. Ultra-red, lower psychic faculties of one who dabbles in evil and selfish forms of magic.
So those are different colors. With 13, I don't necessarily agree with this right here. That's not always the case with orange. So orange can be like, I don't know, like an illumination or something too. And it could take on a spiritual type presence. Sometimes when someone has an ideal or they're about to come to some type of awakening, you'll see an orange about them. An orange brightness come. It'll come and go away, but I wouldn't consider that pride. It's like it always appears when someone began to awaken, to come to a different understanding of something. So I wouldn't look at that as something negative.
There's a question of why can't we see the aura?
A lot of people see the aura and don't know they see the aura. And then everyone don't see colors.
Mm-hmm.
Some people see a light around a person, and then they may sense what the color is or sense what the light means. So, and then some people see the colors. So, but the aura is there. We know it's there now because, scientists can film it. They can take photographs of the aura now. So it's not a question whether it's there or not there. You can Google it, and you can Google it and buy all the devices. I'm not going to do that. It's not. I'm not doing that. But if someone wants to do that, they can do that. Let's look what the 14 lessons have to say about this. I lost the page. Yeah. Can everyone see that? All right, thanks. Okay, this is the 14 lessons. Can you read that?
Or, let me get them. I'll do this one. Auric colors and their meanings. Black represents hatred, malice, revenge, and similar feelings. Gray, a bright shade, represents selfishness.
And then gray again, of a particular shade, almost that of a corpse, represents fear and terror. Gray again, of a dark shade, represents depression and melancholy. Green, of a dirty shade, represents jealousy. If much anger is mingled with the jealousy, it will appear as red flashes on the green background. Green, of almost a slate color shade, represents low deceit. Green, of a particular bright shade, represents tolerance to the opinions and beliefs of others, easy adjustment to changing conditions, adaptability, tact, politeness, worldly wisdom, etc., and qualities which some might possibly consider refined deceit. Red, of a shade resembling the dull flame when it bursts out of a burning building, mingled with the smoke, represents sensuality and the animal passions. Red again, seen in the shape of brilliant red flashes, resembling the lightning flash in shape, indicates anger. These are usually shown on a black background in the case of anger arising from hatred or malice. But in cases of anger arising from jealousy, they appear on a greenish background. Anger arising from indignation or defense of a supposed right lacks these backgrounds and usually shows as red flashes independent of a background. Blue, of a dark shade, represents religious thought, emotion, and feeling. This color, however, varies in clearness according to the degree of unselfishness manifest in the religious conception. The shades and degrees of clearness vary from a dull indigo to something. Crimson represents love, varying in shade according to the character of the passion. A gross sensual love will be a dull and heavy crimson, while one mixed with higher feelings will appear in lighter and more pleasing shades. A very high form of love shows a color almost approaching a beautiful rose color. Brown, of a selfish tinge, represents avarice and greed. Orange, of a bright shade, represents pride and ambition. Yellow, in its various shades, represents intellectual power. If the intellect contents itself with things of a lower order, the shade is a dark, dull yellow. And as the field of intellect rises to higher levels, the color grows brighter and clearer, a beautiful golden yellow, betokening great intellectual attainment, broad and brilliant reasoning, etc. A beautiful, rich violet, the latter representing the highest religious feeling. Light blue, of a particularly clear and luminous shade, represents spirituality. Some of the higher degrees of spirituality observed in ordinary mankind show themselves in this shade of blue, filled with luminous bright points, sparkling and twinkling like stars on a clear winter night.
I think that's something we introduced. But he goes on to say, we say there, that these are endless combinations. So, any other questions on this?
So far, these colors represent mental temperament,
Mm-hmm.
state of mind the person is in. But what about the health of both the physical and the or bodies? Like if it's like a cancer or a flu or something, how the colors affect that?
When you see, I don't know, you see kind of like patches for some reason when someone's sick. You see like, it's almost like scars and stains on the aura of different things when when a person is sick or have some type of serious disease.
Mhm.
Because everybody's sick to some degree. I mean, you notice that right away. When you begin to understand the colors of the aura. But when someone is have a serious illness that's depleting the body of his vitality, you see these patches. And the more intense those different patches are, there's more serious their sickness is. You know, it's almost sometimes it really gets bad. It's almost like a living entity within the aura. At least that's the sense that you have about it. You know, and it begins to like take over. Every time you look at it, you can't help but see it. You know, I noticed it in cancer patients. I worked in a hospital for a number of years at one time, and it's like a presence there in their aura, and it doesn't matter. Sometimes the chemo would lower the presence, but sometimes it does nothing, you know, and eventually it begins once it builds up and the light of that entity begins to shine through the aura, you know that that person is near death. At least that's how I noticed it. So, but.
And how does the aura change colors when somebody is close to death but of a natural death? Like, I'm not saying heart attack or anything like that, but just like, I guess.
Well, all death occurs through a heart attack. You know that, right? Yeah.
But you know what I'm
Yeah.
asking.
Well, I mean,
Is there changes? I imagine there must be changes.
sometimes you can notice it, and then sometimes you don't. You know, I went to go see my grandmother maybe like a day before she died. And I was shocked when I walked into the room because her aura just filled the room, you know, and she was so happy and bright and up and alert, and you know, and I realized that this was she was about to go. But before those days coming up to her death, she was very sickly. She had to go to the hospital. She was 100-some years old, so and she had some type of internal bleeding. But somehow, when I walked in that room, she was just, her presence was there. And the next day, she was gone. So, you know, it's different with everybody, I think. Yeah, I think it is. And then I met some people who were about to die, and they almost seemed void of an aura. They were there, but there was no real activity, so you know that they were about to die. As Edgar Casey said one time, he went to the elevator, and the elevator opened, and he looked in there, and it scared him because nobody seemed to have an aura. So he didn't get on the elevator. He said, I'm not getting on that elevator. So he backed up and let the elevator go, and the elevator, of course, the cords popped and the people fell to their death. So, you know, so sometimes you'll notice that there's an awakening, and then sometimes the aura have moved on because the higher self already know, or the part of the consciousness have moved on because the higher self already know that this is the end of the life, you know. You had something?
So the mental states usually affect the whole of the aura, whereas an illness would be localized to a particular area.
What moves energy?
The chakras.
No, what is the chakras then? It's consciousness. So what holds energy together?
Mind holds
Yeah. So the mental body actually give texture and movement to all energy, right? That's why you have the auric body. It's a high state of it's a high and low states of consciousness. So it's not before then the energy is just there, moving. Remember we talked about how the ancient people looked at it, right? They call the universal mind what? Chitta, right? And that's a divine source of mind energy, right? And then once it comes into contact with man, it's called manas, right? So because why? Because consciousness is what? Consciousness is lower than what? Then not only mind, but its consciousness is lower than the soul. Because the soul creates the auric field in order to capture mind, in order to have mind energy run through it, operate in a certain way, and go back out again. Because even the mind energy is not permanent within the body. You understand? It's constantly changing. And the prana, the same way the prana, the five major pranas does what? It comes in and goes out. It comes in and goes out. It serves a purpose, and that's what allows mobility. That's what allows consciousness, So but what the soul does, the soul sets up this matrix in order to allow different levels of consciousness. So what it does is captures this Shakti power, because everything is Shakti, and it molds this Shakti power into a stream of consciousness, right? It's almost the same way we use the internet, what do we do? We create all this data and information, right? And we have all these different drivers, right? To push this information in and out of our PC via what? The internet, right? The information on the internet is not necessarily on your PC, right? Because what's happening is moving through, and we capture it, right? And we have these temporary what is called the temporary yeah, and in order to do what? In order to recognize it as it's passed through. But once we empty that out, it slows down a little bit until it does what? Until it creates all the proper cookies or whatever in order to get it and going again, right? So it's the same way with our auric body. Mind goes through, energy goes through, but we use it for a minute, push it out, bring new energy in, bring new mind in,
Should we then not be able to use our will to reject the mind of a cancer from our aura and not allow it to take root in our aura?
Yeah, I mean, you probably could do that. Some healers, I mean, that's what healers do. What they do, they use their magnetic energy in order to eat up or push out the negative energy within the aura. But at the same time, it all depends on that person's karma. It's the cycles that person have to go through, Now, that person can build up enough good karma, so-called good karma, in order to help you, the person who have enough energy to pull that negative patch out of there. But but if that person necessarily have to go through that, and so that it never happens again, then then they fight through it. They gain that experience, so that they never have to deal with that again. So, but sometimes they can build up enough energy to beat it, and then sometimes they can't. It's like taking a stain out of a cloth. Sometimes you can remove the stain, and sometimes you can't.
I have another question. So when somebody has Alzheimer's,
Mm.
where their mind is working clearly differently than it used to before, what happens to the aura, and how does that affect it or work? Or
It's the same thing that's happening to all of us right now. What do? We create these blockages, within the auric pathway or the nadi pathways, right? Because the nadis are, the nadi means a movement of a flow of energy, right? And that energy is a mental energy and a vital energy, and those nadis go in and out of the chakras, the vortex centers, and that's what creates consciousness. When those nadis actually cross, you have different levels of consciousness. But we can build up enough trash to slow down the productivity of those nadis, right? And therefore it clogs the aura. Well, it's not that the auric body is not working perfectly. It's just got a lot of trash in it. It has a lot of blockages, and Alzheimer's is one of those blockages, unfortunately. So it's just a buildup. Is that arrangement of that negative energy that we have to experience, because why? Because something we did, that brought on that, that lesson that we have to learn, But I've seen some people with Alzheimer's and they're functionable. Then some people are not functionable, So it's a degree of karma that in my opinion, it's a degree of karma. But more and more scientists are coming around ways to help us deal with that. And there's nothing wrong with medicine that can help you deal with certain situations. That's your karma too. So.
And is there a difference in mental illness versus physical illnesses and the way it gets represented in the aura?
Yeah, I'm sure it is. It's all because, see, you got to think, every present action is a result of what? Of past thoughts and actions. So, of course there is. So, our whole life is a combination of who we were for lifetimes. Life after life after life after life is what we are right now. Some of it's good, some of it's bad, So. So, any other questions online? There's no questions?
No.
Okay.
I've heard of flashes or sequence of lights used to cause like seizures or hypnosis.
Used to cause what?
Like seizures or hypnosis.
Mm-hmm.
How is that affecting the aura? What way is that affecting
I really don't know. I know that if you bathe in certain light, the light can help heal you, you know, and there's that's called color healing. One of the things, cause light enter several different realms of existence, right? So let's say if you wanted a certain type of, if you know that that a certain type of green light bring about a certain type of healing, right? Then you can light up your bedroom at night with that particular color, and you go to sleep under that. And you'll notice over a period of time that particular energy of that comes from that light, you'll be able to seize that energy. You'll be able to actually take advantage of that because it has healing effects on you. And then when you go to sleep at night, your body is receptive to that light, you know. Also sound too with that. So, I mean, those are like color healing type techniques. And now there's what some color healing people do. They have a particular maybe like 2 or 3 different colors that they may use to help them do the healing, like when they're doing pranic healing, and they will turn those type of lights on in order to have it physically and mentally within their head, so that when they radiate the energy out of the palm of their hands or any one of their chakras, it allows them to concentrate and push that type of energy into your aura in order to bring about healing effects. So I know that because the energy is that particular color, it can have an effect on you, you know. But I mean, I don't, the particular question you asked, I don't really have a real answer on it. I just know the science behind it because I've seen it happen before. You know, I was fortunate enough to heal a lady with a tumor using color healing, and it happened instantly, I think, because she was diagnosed a couple of days before she came to me, and she came to a healing class I was giving. I gave the healing, and then the next day or so, she said, "Oh, the tumor I had disappeared." And they did X-ray after X-ray, and they couldn't find it anymore. And when she came to me, in fact, she didn't even tell me that she had a tumor, right? I just seen this ugly patch, and I worked on it. And it seemed to go away for me. And then afterwards, she actually came back to another classmate and told her, and because she didn't come to class that day, the next couple of days, and she said, "Oh, let him know that the tumor disappeared." You know, so it happens with color healing if you're really, really good at it, or sometimes you just might be the combination for that person. It may not be that you're so good, your energies might just link you and that person karmically, and you can be the instrument, you know, to help that person, you know. And then you have the real people who can have that type of healing all the time, because they just, you know, they just vibrate that way to give healing, to give all different type of spiritual healing. Okay, so if there's no more questions, there's nothing online?
Picking back off what you were saying
Mm-hmm.
about light and sound being, two sides of the same coin.
Mm-hmm.
When I was very young, and still today, I can hear
Mm-hmm.
So all the colors that are reflected in the aura, they have a sound aspect to them as well.
Mm-hmm.
And you can pick up on that sound the same way you can pick up on the color. It's a little different.
Yeah, I think you can. Yeah. If you do pranayama exercises, right? There comes a point in your pranayama exercises that when you close your eyes, you see all these different colors. Now, with the colors will come a shape, right? And with the colors and shape comes a sound. Because sound produces what? Huh? Shapes. That's one of the first things you notice. Sound produces a particular shape. In fact, scientists have proven that many years ago, probably a couple hundred years ago. What they did, they took a particular sounds and they had this, it was some type of sand thing, and they put it on this tray. And they pushed the sound through it, and each time the sound would make a particular shape, a particular sound. The AUM always created a circle when it was, pushed through this sand that responded to sound. So sound produces shape. So one of the things you notice is that you'll begin to see the colors, and then you'll begin to see the shapes. And when you see the shapes, you'll begin to hear the sound shortly after that. And it's all through pranayama. That's why people who say, "Oh, I do pranayama every day," I wait for them to talk about that. If they don't talk about it, they're doing something wrong. Because you notice that right away. At least when you get deep into your pranayama, you'll begin to see the colors on the eyelids. And in fact, it'll come outside of the eyelids and you'll see it within the aura. And then you'll begin to see all the different shapes. And then you'll begin to hear the sounds. And what it is, actually what it is the different chakras responding to the pranayama as the energy moves through the nadis, and from each chakra brings a different experience, and it's like I said, sight, the colors, the shapes of the colors, and then the sound, right? And then you begin to have all these visions. You can have visions from, you can have visions from the past, from the present, or the future. You begin to have all the visions after that. But that's the order that it usually come in. And so it is related. Every sound has a particular color and shape. And really when it's traveling through open space, you can see the shape of the color. Which is weird, but it's still there because it moves in that direction. It moves in the direction of the shape that it makes.
Now, the energies that flow through the chakra, pass through the aura, chakra, and so on. But you have these, like a cancer, whatever, that's in the aura. But that particular energy doesn't necessarily go through the chakra. It just...
Well, that cancer is this right here, what we call here, the impurities bedded in the aura. It comes from your own character.
Right.
It comes from anger, desire, greed, delusion. These things over time, over many, many lifetimes, they build they create certain illnesses. Certain, almost like these illnesses like a different life form within us. And it just builds up and builds up and builds up until it explodes. It takes life and then die. But we have to overcome that over time. And it happens to all of us.
But those impurities never, like say, never touch the Bindu or anything?
No. I mean, remember, the Bindu is there and not there, remember? And the Bindu is what? Huh? Yeah, and so what does that mean? It's a point of consciousness, but what does it mean? It's the highest point of consciousness. It's in a what type of state? It's a Shiva state. It's in a Shiva state. So if it's in a Shiva state, what does that tell you? Yeah, and it's untouchable. So, you know, it's like, can anything really get close or touch the sun? Because the sun is what? It's in the Shiva state. You know, so that Shiva state is so intense. It's a compaction of the highest energies. It's these creative energies that really it can't be defined. Because why? What are we told? We're told that it's endless potential. So that's what the Bindu is. Endless potential. It's the point of endless potential. So it really can't be affected. You know.
Could the chakra tap into Bindu and push that pure energy out of itself as opposed to acting as a conduit for other energy?
Well, the only reason why it is a chakra is because of the Bindu. Remember? Because the Bindu is the thing that create as the energies pass through, it's actually attracted to the Bindu, right? And that's what creates the vortex, remember? And it passes through the Bindu because the Bindu is what? It is the will of what? The spirit and the soul. See? Because the soul uses the Bindu. Right? In other words, the soul sits outside of the door of the Bindu, and it pulls on the tremendous power of the Bindu. It pulls on this endless potential. Remember? And because and like the teachings say that we live by the grace of what? Of God. So what the soul does, the soul is like the body of the spirit, and the spirit is the divine spark of God. So the soul uses this love energy, which is the grace of God, to pull energy out of what? Out of the endless potential. In order to do what? In order to do the directive of the will of God or the will of the spirit. See? And that's what creates this whole vortex of energy. You know, we live by the grace of the God. The sun is the highest aspect of God within the solar system. And the sun does what? It gives us energy 24/7. You know, we are constantly, without the sun, nothing exists in the solar system. Nothing. Because our physical existence on all the realms is nothing but solidified light. That's all we are, you know. And the only thing that's really untouchable is the soul and the spirit. But the soul but the spirit uses the soul, manifests as the soul, and the soul pulls on the tremendous energy of the sun. You know, the sun pulls on the energy of what? The galactic sun. See? And then the galactic sun pulls on the energy of what? Of the absolute. You know? So or the laws of creation. The greater laws of creation. Then the galaxy, because the galaxy itself is a lord of creation. Pranayama, I have to go back to pranayama, the practice of pranayama. Another practice, while you're doing pranayama, go to a mirror, on a daily basis, day and night. And when you look in the mirror, look slightly upwards. And you do that while you're doing your pranayama, your mantra. These things, pranayama and mantra and prayer brings about extrasensory perception. If you do it on a regular basis, you'll begin to notice that your senses become ultra senses, you know, and the one practice of seeing the aura is going to the mirror, staring at yourself, and slightly looking upwards just above the top of your head, and one day you'll begin to see the outline of your aura. It might happen in several weeks, several months, or several years. It all depends on you. But the pranayama is deep breathing, is a series of deep breathing exercises along with mantra and prayer. And doing that little exercise, there's just one exercise you can do, but you can look that stuff up. In fact, one of the things we plan to do, I did the outline for it. I'm gonna put together a book of practices, of mystic practices. I think we have an outline for over 100, about 140 some different mystic practices that we're gonna write up so that people can reference it. But I really don't want people using it just for the psychic world. It should be for spirituality, to build your own spiritual sense or awareness. But that's one of the ways. There's no easy way. Any other way that's not allowing you to develop your spiritual understanding is a negative way. And psychic energy without proper control or teachings of how to use it will send you crazy. It will absolutely send you crazy. So always balance any type of psychic development with spiritual development. And that's, just basic stuff. Basic Christian things, basic Buddhist things, basic Jewish things that tell you how to act, how to live your life properly or whatever, how to treat everybody nice, how to give service to everyone. Those things help to cleanse the aura of negativity. And almost all the religions have, some more extreme than others, but they have these code of ethics that you need to take on. And basically it's just treating everyone fairly and the way you would want to be treated. And not putting anyone down, not looking down on someone because of who they are and what position they are in life. And when you can respect everyone and love everyone, then you're on the way of cleansing your aura. And unfortunately, sometimes it takes lifetimes for us to get there. But that's one way. What's the other question you said?
If two people have the same aura configuration, for example, green with red spots, will the people be energetically drawn to each other? And do the entities in your aura draw on like-minded others as well?
Does energy in the what? Aura does what? Draw on like-minded people, you said?
Yeah.
Yeah, in a sense it does, but just because a person have the same color, that doesn't mean they have the same configuration. It doesn't mean that. Now, let's say they may have the similar likes and dislikes, but it's not going to be the same all the time because they have different experiences. And they have different intensity. So no, but let's say 10 people died, and they have similar auric configurations. most likely, most of them will go to the same realm of existence, you know, because of that. But that doesn't mean that they need the same experience, because each experience might be slightly different. It's the same way if you had a group of people that was interested in a particular profession. Now, when you look at them, when you look at their auras might be similar, but all of them come to the table with different experiences. So you can't lump people in like that. Another thing too, now, and I think I went over this a couple of weeks back, a certain group of people, let's say a certain profession, they build a mental cloud that all of them operate from. And you can notice that. Like you go into a fire station and there's this intensity there, because of their profession. A hospital, a library, a real estate office. You notice that there's this mental cloud of substance there that everyone taps into, and they have a similarity about themselves. You can go into certain towns. In fact, when you're traveling, and you, especially in the country areas, you can see it as you're driving up to these particular these towns. If you just look at it from a distance, you'll begin to feel and see the aura or the consciousness of that town, and it has a certain feeling about it. So when people come together, they create a different type of consciousness, an entity. It's just like when you have the mystics say, if you bring two people together, you have the two people and then the aura of the two people. Because why? What happens, their aura links and it creates another entity which helps them to communicate. And you notice that because it's just a different mindset. So. Right, they had another crazy question?
What if there's two individuals who are consistently working on a project together or consistently interacting, but there's a lack of communication? Like one person is just not understanding no matter what the other person does or tries to phrase. Like what's happening in that situation?
It just might be that person's inability to concentrate and to link. Because now, just like I'm giving this lecture, my aura is connected to everyone in this room, but it's not connected the same way. And it's usually because of the person who's receiving it. They may have certain blockages or certain karmic configuration or karmic limitations that they can't get over. Sometimes the teacher have a karmic configuration too, a limitation as well, that they can't link into that particular person. But usually that's what it is. It's some type of limitation karmically that don't allow it. Like like I told you, like anytime I do an advanced class, what happens to the room? It empties out. Because why? That lets me know that the class is not ready to do advanced teachings, And then when I do a simple, like we did the healing class, 27 to 30 some people showed up, right? Yeah, a numerology, they show up because why? It's basic classes. But anytime we go into the deep metaphysical stuff, the people they can't take it. Because why? Karmically, they're not there. They have this karmic limitation about themselves that they can't, they're not ready for that type of teachings. Unfortunately, that's the way it is. Mm. You what?
I'll save it for now.
Save it for what? Go ahead. Because I may not come back to this subject.
The colors, representations of the aura, that apply to like the third and second aspects? Or that's mainly,
What you mean by the third and second aspects?
well, like we're currently in fourth aspect.
Mm-hmm.
And this is and then those colors represent this type of mental state or energy configuration. Does it also apply to like the third aspect and the second aspect?
How do you see the third aspect? What do you see the third aspect?
I understand to be like a traveling aspect. It
Mhm.
resides on the higher realms.
Mm-hmm.
If the fourth is needed, that's what goes down, like on this piece of ground. But it is closer to soul, closer to spirit.
Now you remember that cosmic beings or avatars, what do they do with their aura?
They pull it within themselves.
Yeah. So, because why?
Yeah, why?
Because they're utilizing all energy. They're not,
But what's the main reason why they would do that?
while they're traveling, like just
No, I told you why they do it, but I want to know if you remember. What's the main reason why they do that?
because they're in control of everything, every aspect of their.
That's not what I'm looking for. Why do they do that? Anyone remember?
Isn't it because wherever they go, they may affect the karmic, aspect of, you know what I'm saying? Like,
That's
we're-
part of it, but
Huh?
that's part of it, but what is the reason? What's the main reason?
Because they're an avatar.
They work within what?
The laws, strictly within the law.
They work strictly within the laws of karma.
And what does that mean, exception?
In other words, every movement they make is because the movement is needed.
Okay,
In other words, right now, if we have a craving for something, we're going to do what?
Go find something to eat.
Go find something to eat. But karmically, if that's not right, a cosmic being, they wouldn't do that. See? They're not going to move on their desires. They're going to move when the time is right, when the karmic time is right. In other words, if we look at nature, the laws of nature is so exact. And like we was looking at that movie a couple of weeks ago, the scientist said it's so exact that what? What was it? He opened up with that. What did he say?
It's predictable.
He said it's so exact that you can take a rocket
oh, yeah.
to the moon, land, and then leave the moon and come back to Earth with precise mathematical calculations. That's not man. That's the absolute. That's God. So the laws are so exact, and that's karmic, that's karma. That's the laws of karma. Because karma is the framework of creation. It has all the mathematical signatures and formulas to creation itself. So when your consciousness rise to this cosmic level, then you realize that all your movement must be dictated by karma. Other than that, you'll be what we are today. We have war, we have famine, we have all these different things when there's an abundance of resources here. There's no reason why someone can't drink water or don't have water. There's no reason why people can't eat. There's no reason why we should be fighting each other. There's an abundance of everything. But what we do, we move and act outside of the law. And that's why, and we create this domino effect that we're constantly trying to correct. See? If we move within the laws of karma, then everyone would grow and move and have everything they need. So, but when you raise Kundalini up to the Christ center, as Jesus did, as Buddha did, as Sri Krishna did, you realize that what? That you must operate within the law of God. The law of karma is the law of God. So all your movements will be according to the law. So therefore, you will not pollute the earth with any unwanted actions. That's why they pull the energy back within them. And the only time the energy comes out is to work within the law to correct something. So that's the difference. Okay?
So viewed psychically, it wouldn't necessarily see colors on advanced beings.
You'll see a light around them. In fact, their whole body was seen to have this fluorescent light shining from within it. You know, but not necessarily outside of it. It'll be contained. But everywhere they be, you'll see this imprint of them. You know, I don't know if you see auras a little bit, concentrate on it when you see it. If this is a poor example, but an athlete or even a carpenter, when they're working, they have this intensity about them, and they go and doing something like, even a good teacher too, and then they move away, and all of a sudden you still see an imprint of them there, and they have this light and this glow about them because why? That's something that they have did for maybe hundreds of years, maybe lifetime after lifetime after lifetime. So they they go into the zone, and they have this glow about them when they do that. So that's if you can imagine that to the 10,000th power, that's the way a cosmic being would look. So but without the aura, without the aura.
The spinning of the aura, that's what mantra. Are those colors pulled in a sense you kind of just see like a kaleidoscope, or is it you just kind of see the
You'll see, when you say kaleidoscope, what are you talking
like
about?
a constant shifting of a color, or
No, it almost become like a prism almost. It's like the color seems to disappear unless that person have projected a particular color or attitude. In other words, you understand what I'm saying? So it's like when you really get into mantra, and the aura begins to spin, you will see the light, or it might be one singular color of that. So it could be a blue, it could be a number of things depending on the purpose of that mantra, on chanting that mantra. Especially when you sending out energy for healing. So it could take on a particular healing type color. And I think there's like, I don't want to say, it's like 5 or 6 major colors of healing that most color healing people use. It might take on that particular color. From the intensity of the group or the single person who's chanting the mantra to produce that particular energy. So.
and does the energy of that mantra begin to encapsulate the aura, or resonate in the aura?
It depends on the intensity of the person. It depends on that person's ability to concentrate or even move to a level of contemplation. You know, that it depends on the person. Now, one thing it does spin the aura. It does, the chanting of it does, it activates the chakra to a certain degree to allow the energy to synchronize itself and push the energy out, you know, to the target. The power of mantra is guaranteed. So you can see that. It's like moving water from a jug to a cup. It's guaranteed if you tilt it over to fill. So the power of mantra is like that. So as long as you intone the mantra properly, all right? If there's no other questions, let's go ahead and close out with a prayer. Yeah. Let's close out with a prayer. Face the east.
The way that we pray is we stand facing the east, and we hold our hands up like this, and we visualize a white light coming down from the atmosphere through our heads, out the palms of our hands, and out the heart center, which is about 3 or 4 inches in front of the breastbone. So as the prayer is being recited, we send out this energy with the prayer. After the prayer is complete, we dust our hands off like this and say silently to ourselves, "So it is done." And we dust our hands off to cut off the flow of energy so we don't drain ourselves throughout the day. Okay. The New Lord's Prayer. O divine and wondrous Spirit, O everlasting Lord of hosts, send forth now through me thy great and lasting power. Allow me, Almighty God, the lasting privilege of radiating to all the world thy great love, so that those who suffer may be given the power and energy to rise above their weaknesses. Almighty God, in great humility do I ask you to send forth your power, to give to me this great lasting privilege of being a channel, so that my suffering brothers may be helped and guided and healed and lifted into thy light, so that they who know not may look up and in doing so receive to their higher selves your divine counsel. Almighty God, this day have you granted me a divine privilege. I ask you now to give to me the strength so that never again will I turn from my inner vision of you. Oh, great peace, great peace, great peace. In praise of your greatness, O God, doth my soul sing. Grant it energy to sing on forever and forever. Thank you for watching. I'll see you next week.